The story begins with a Saint Bernard dog named Cujo, who is trying to catch a rabbit. He chases the prey until he reaches a very dark burrow, but cannot enter and gets his head stuck in the hole. His barking awakens a swarm of terrifying bats that are scattered in the darkness, and he ends up being bitten by one of them. Meanwhile, a boy named Tad Trenton is facing his fear of the dark at bedtime. After closing the closet door tightly, he turns off the light and runs under the covers, where he curls up and remains alert. Soon the door begins to open again with a sinister creak, and Tad screams for his mother in terror. When his parents, Donna and Vic, come to his room to calm him down, he swears he saw a monster with yellow eyes inside the closet, but they explain that it was just a nightmare. Vic shows him that there is nothing but toys in the closet and takes a teddy bear to keep the boy company. Tad continues to insist that the monster was there and even mimics the creature's panting sound, but his parents assure him it was just his imagination because such things do not exist in the real world. Donna puts her son to bed, clutching the teddy bear, and Vic leaves the bedroom door open so it won't be too dark. Even so, the boy is not convinced at all, and the next day, we see he built a barricade with furniture to block the closet door. During breakfast, Vic asks who made all that mess, and Tad pretends not to know anything. It is then that Steve, a family friend who is a carpenter, arrives to deliver a toy horse. Donna seems a bit uncomfortable with the visit, but manages to disguise her displeasure so Vic won't notice. Seeing a cereal commercial on TV, Tad tells Steve that it was his dad who created the character of the professor who recommends the Sharp brand. The carpenter chats a little with the boy and arranges to meet Vic later for a tennis match. On the court, Vic wins another match against his friend, unaware that he is losing to him in another way, as his wife is having a secret affair with Steve. During dinner, Vic laments the lack of conversation between the couple and suggests that having a second child might be a good idea, since all the domestic joy seems to come from Tad. The next day, a problem arises with Vic's car, and he takes it to the mechanic, who is too busy to attend to him with the speed he demands. Overhearing the conversation, a mailman gives a tip about another mechanic, Joe Camber, who, besides being fast, is much more honest with prices. The only drawback is that Camber lives in the woods and only works at home, but Vic then decides to turn the car repair into an outing. Taking his family along, Vic drives to the Camber residence, where Joe lives with his wife Charity and son Brett. Their dog is that Saint Bernard named Cujo, and Donna is a little startled by his size, but Brett assures her that the dog is very gentle. Joe says he needs to hear the car moving, so he and Vic will take a drive up the hills. Brett helps Tad approach the dog, and the boy gets excited to play with him while Donna notices the wound on his snout. At night, Tad makes his father check all corners of his room, looking for any hidden monsters. Vic swears he will never let anything bad happen to the boy, who finally feels a bit calmer. Donna is moved by Vic's caring nature as a father, but the atmosphere between them remains very cold, and he is becoming increasingly suspicious that something is wrong. As if the marital crisis weren't enough, Vic's career is also facing a terrible twist. Thousands of people across the country are falling ill after consuming cereal from the Sharp brand. This puts the character of the professor, who is always on TV telling children that the product is good for them, in question. Vic created the campaign along with his colleague Roger, and now both are taking the blame for the fiasco, even after it was revealed that the infections were a false alarm. Their boss calls them to a special meeting with the board, and Roger deduces that the agency lost Sharp as a client. Vic's car is almost ready, and now the docile Cujo starts to get agitated with the incessant noise. At the same time, Donna takes advantage of her husband's distraction to secretly visit Steve. Feeling guilty, she ends the affair, saying it was all a big mistake, and she doesn't want to risk her family's happiness anymore. Steve says he accepts that decision, but runs after her right away, making a scene in the street. Coincidentally, Vic has just picked up the car and is passing by during the argument. He immediately turns around, but the two are no longer on the corner when he passes by again. At the school pickup, Donna notices a cut on her son's forehead, and Tad explains that he was hit by the swing during recess. Now, it's her car that seems to be malfunctioning, jolting all the way down the road. Tad gets excited to see his dad home so early, and Donna is surprised by this too, disguising her fear when Vic asks what she did during the afternoon. Without mentioning anything about Steve, she lies that she just went to the market and did some shopping. Meanwhile, Joe Camber is arriving home, and the sound of the car bothers Cujo, who crawls under the stairs, growling incessantly. Seeing a package in the workshop, Joe gets angry about the purchase and goes to confront his wife. His son reminds him that he himself had requested the part, but Joe only replies that it is too expensive and he cannot afford it. From Charity and Brett's behavior, we can see that they are very scared of Joe and his aggressive behavior. However, Charity reveals that she won $5,000 in the lottery and explains that the part is a gift. Without apologizing for his rudeness, Joe thanks her curtly, and she seizes the moment to make a request, very carefully. Her sister lives in another city, and since they haven't seen each other for a long time, Charity wants to spend a week at her house, taking Brett with her too. Seeing it as a chance to blow the rest of the money by himself, Joe lets her go with their son and invites his friend Gary to party in Boston while they are away. A few days later, Steve finishes renovating a table for the Trentons and insists on delivering it personally, startling Donna with his sneaky arrival. Upon learning that Tad is sleeping upstairs, he moves in on Donna, not accepting no as an answer. Outraged, she pushes him away and knocks the dishes to the ground, waking Tad immediately. Vic also arrives home just in time to notice the strange atmosphere, in addition to the spilled milk and broken dishes. Steve starts to explain, but Donna interrupts him, and he thinks it's better to get out of there. Then Vic asks his wife about his suspicions, and Donna decides to confess that he is right. Disappointed, Vic tries to channel his anger into the engine of her car and barely avoids cursing in front of the child. Tad feels upset to learn that his dad is going away for work and plans to be gone for 10 days, fearing that his mother may not know how to scare off monsters quite as effectively. Vic tries hard to contain his irritation, not letting his marital problems affect the child, and promises to write down anti-monster phrases on a piece of paper for Donna to read every night. When she asks if the car is fixed, he mumbles that he doesn't have the necessary tools and tells her to handle it herself, saying that Joe Camber's house isn't that far. Meanwhile, Brett is worried when he hears Cujo whining and goes out to look for him, crossing a thick fog that covers the entire yard. The dog suddenly appears, with foamy saliva and growling aggressively. Brett starts getting scared and talks to the dog in a sweet tone, trying to remind him that they are friends. Cujo seems to understand the message and stops growling, but still refuses to follow Brett and walks away, ignoring his calls. Another day passes, and it's time for Vic to leave, telling Donna that he still doesn't know if he wants a separation or not. Charity is also getting ready to leave with their son, who is still worried about Cujo, but she doesn't let him mention anything to Joe, knowing that her husband will use any excuse to ruin their trip. Next door, Gary is taking out the trash when Cujo appears growling. Noticing the foamy slobber and the threatening look of the dog, Gary realizes the danger and runs away. Cujo catches up to him easily and knocks him to the ground, but Gary manages to break free. He gets inside and quickly shuts the door, grabbing a rifle while muttering that the rabid dog needs to be put down. However, Cujo bursts through the door before he finishes loading the weapon, and what happens next is a deadly attack. Joe arrives shortly afterward and immediately begins to sense something wrong from the porch when he sees the destroyed door. He enters the house calling his friend's name and is devastated to find Gary's remains, but his mourning turns to horror when he thinks about what kind of beast could have done this. Fearing it's still around, Joe tries to call someone for help. It's then that Cujo appears, all covered in blood, barking at Joe ferociously, leaving no doubt that he is the one to blame. Joe panics upon realizing that the dog has rabies and begins to scream when Cujo jumps on him. Without knowing any of this, Donna and Tad are happily singing on the road, heading to Joe's house for the car repair. Upon arriving at their destination, they find the silence and absence of the Camber family strange. Donna gets out of the car and starts calling for Joe, but there is no answer. Tad complains that he can't unbuckle his seatbelt, and she tries to help, but sees that it is indeed stuck. Suddenly, Cujo appears in the passenger window, barking menacingly and trying to thrust his head through the gap. Tad starts screaming, and Donna struggles to roll up the window without the paws scratching her arm. Pressed by the neck, the dog quickly pulls his head back and gives up on attacking from there, moving around so quickly that Donna barely manages to close her door in time. By now, Tad is in tears, asking how that monster got out of the closet and came after them so far away. Trying to calm him down, Donna tells him that it's just a dog and not a monster, but it's hard to believe that when Cujo climbs onto the hood, scratching the windshield violently. Desperate, Donna honks the horn as hard as she can until she drives him away and tells her son it's time to leave. However, now the car won't start, and the two are trapped inside, just a few meters away from the rabid dog waiting. After a few minutes, Donna tries again, and Tad cheers upon hearing the sound of the engine starting. The joy doesn't last long as the dashboard lights up and the car dies again, barely having driven a few meters. Tad panics at his mother's despair, making her regain her composure and decide to wait until someone comes to save them. By late afternoon, no one has appeared, and the dog hasn't left, keeping an eye on the two. Meanwhile, Vic is having dinner with Roger and finds it strange that Donna isn't answering the phone at home, but doesn't worry too much. In the camber yard, Tad announces the bad news that he really needs to go to the bathroom. Not knowing that Cujo is lying right in front of the car, Donna decides to open the door just a little so her boy can relieve himself. The dog goes on high alert once he hears the doorknob, but fortunately, the phone starts ringing inside the house at that very moment. Attracted by the more piercing sound, Cujo runs to the porch, and Donna is astonished to see him break the window. She hopes he decides to jump inside, but her luck isn't that great as he returns to the top of the stairs, where he can watch the duo all night long. The two end up falling asleep, and Donna wakes up to the dawn sun, coming face to face with the beast right outside the car window. Waking up in the hotel, Vic tries to call his wife again, and starts getting anxious when no one answers. As the hours go by, it gets hotter inside the car, and Donna risks opening the window a little. The water bottle is nearly empty, and she asks Tad to hold off on thirst a little longer so they don't run out right away. While he comforts himself reading the anti-monster phrases, she notices a fallen bat that could be useful if the situation doesn't change. Tad asks her to try starting the car again, and she shows him that it won't work anymore, but assures him that this nightmare is coming to an end because the mailman will arrive soon. What she doesn't know is that Joe left a message at the post office to avoid deliveries with the house empty since the packages might be stolen. When the phone rings again, Cujo reacts unexpectedly and runs toward the car this time, head-butting the side with all his force. Donna hugs Tad and prepares for the second impact, even worse than the first. Next, the dog smashes the back window with a paw and chomps off one of the door handles. The phone keeps ringing uninterrupted as he climbs on top of the car, leaving Donna and Tad at the limit of panic. Then we see that it is Vic calling, wanting to ask Joe if his family has been there. His concern is so great that he barely pays attention to the work meeting. A few hours later, the heat becomes unbearable inside Donna's car, and she begins to fear for her son's health. Opening the door quietly, she gets out of the car very slowly and doesn't see that Cujo is watching her from below. After taking a few steps, she thinks of this possibility and bends down to check if he is on the other side, but now he is right behind her. He attacks her as soon as she turns around, and Tad watches in horror as his mother struggles with the enormous rabid dog. With great effort, she manages to push him away enough to open the door, but he invades the car and jumps on her. Donna defends herself by hitting him with the thermos and ends up barely winning the fight, but she does not escape the confrontation unscathed. Her legs are injured, and her general condition is terrible, even without counting hunger and exhaustion. In the middle of the night, Vic reaches his limit and decides to cut the trip short. Roger is shocked by the disregard at such a critical moment for the company, but Vic barely hears him. Meanwhile, Donna improvises a bandage with strips from her own clothing, and Cujo climbs on the hood to face her. Another night passes, and Donna wakes up to a convulsion from her son. There's no way to take him to Joe's house because the dog attacks as soon as she opens the door. In a panic, she hugs her son and does what she can to protect him until the convulsion passes. At the same time, Steve pays her a visit just before Vic arrives, finding everything destroyed. He calls the police and accuses Steve of having kidnapped his family, but the detective notices that Donna's car is not in the garage. Vic explains that it must be in the shop, and he sends Sheriff George to Joe's house to check. Donna and Tad are so exhausted that they do not hear the patrol arriving, so no one warns them of the danger. Seeing the wrecked car, George grabs the radio to notify the sheriff, but a noise distracts him. Cujo attacks him by surprise and catches him off guard, causing him to drop his weapon. Donna wakes up to the horror screams of the sheriff being bitten and sees him trying to escape the dog while balancing on the barn beams. She tries to take the opportunity to get out of the car, but now the door is jammed. Cujo takes a running start to jump on George's legs, knocking him down from above. When Donna gets out the other door and goes around, the dog has already torn Sheriff George apart and is ready for the next victim. She goes back inside without thinking twice and sees that Tad is struggling to breathe. At home, Vic learns that Steve has been arrested and that his family was not with him. When the detective tells him that George has not reported back, Vic loses his patience and decides to go talk to Joe in person. Seeing that Tad is too weak and practically not waking up, Donna gathers the courage to get out of the car and limps toward the baseball bat. The dog heads towards her as soon as he notices the movement, but is startled by the counterattack when she ends up hitting him. The two face off for a few minutes, and Donna's blows cannot stop the dog, which ends up breaking the bat. However, this is exactly what saves her when she stumbles and falls, still holding the half of the bat that was left with a sharp end. Jumping over her, Cujo lands right on it and gets injured. His body collapses on Donna, who pushes him aside and grabs the sheriff's gun. Now that the path to the house is finally clear and she is armed, both doors of the car are jammed and she cannot reach her son, who is at death's door. Unconvinced, Donna bangs the gun against the back window until it shatters and pulls the boy out. She takes him to Joe's kitchen and administers first aid, nearly losing hope. Vic is speeding his way there when the boy finally starts coughing, and Donna celebrates, relieved. It is then that Cujo invades the kitchen with a leap that shatters the window and bares his teeth. Still holding her son, Donna aims the revolver at the beast and pulls the trigger. As Vic arrives, she exits Joe's house carrying Tad in her arms, feeling victorious for having overcome such a beast.